Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. These words from Marcus Aurelius carry a powerful message that resonates across centuries. Yet in modern life, so many of us are consumed by endless arguments not with others, but with ourselves. We replay old mistakes, agonizing over what we should have done or could have been. Regret feels inevitable, doesn't it? But what if that regret is not only unhelpful but entirely unnecessary? What if, instead of draining ourselves by reliving the past, we could channel that energy into building a better present and future? That's exactly what Stoicism teaches us, a practical, timeless framework for letting go of regret and finding purpose in what we can control. Today, we'll explore why the Stoics believed regret is a waste of energy, and more importantly, how you can apply their wisdom to transform your life. Stay with me, because what you learn today might just change the way you see your past and your future. Imagine this: you're lying in bed at night, replaying a moment from years ago. Maybe it was a job you didn't take, a relationship you let slip away, or a careless comment you wish you could take back. Your mind spirals with what if scenarios, each one pulling you deeper into a sense of disappointment and frustration. That sinking feeling in your chest, that's regret. It's an emotion so many of us know intimately, yet it remains one of the most insidious traps we set for ourselves. Regret, at its core, is a response to the tension between our reality and the imagined outcomes of a different choice. Emotionally, it manifests as sorrow, guilt, or frustration. Cognitively, it's rooted in the act of comparing the present moment to an idealized version of the past, a version where you made the right decision. But here's the key: regret is inherently tied to events that are gone, locked in time, and utterly beyond your control. The Stoics would argue that it's this very fixation on the uncontrollable that makes regret not only pointless but harmful. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it plainly: some things are up to us and some things are not. According to him, our power lies in how we interpret and respond to events, not in the events themselves, and certainly not in rewriting the past. Regret, then, is a thief of energy. It pulls us away from the present, where our actions and choices actually matter, and traps us in a mental loop of helplessness. Let's break this down with an example. Say you regret not taking a chance on a career opportunity years ago. You dwell on what your life might have been if you had only been braver or smarter back then. But here's the question: can you go back in time? Can you change the fact that you turned it down? The answer is obvious. What's less obvious, though, is the damage that this mindset causes. By focusing your thoughts on something you can never undo, you're neglecting the opportunities in front of you right now, the ones you can act on. The Stoics saw regret as a form of self-imposed suffering, a misuse of our mental and emotional energy. Instead of lamenting what has already happened, they encourage turning your attention to what you can influence in the here and now. Regret is like staring at a door that's already closed while ignoring the open doors just a few steps away. The longer you linger, the more you miss. So what's the alternative? The Stoic approach is to accept the past for exactly what it is: unchangeable. Acceptance isn't about pretending the past doesn't matter or glossing over mistakes. It's about recognizing that while you can't alter what's done, you can decide how to respond to it moving forward. That clarity, that even-tempered focus, is where your power lies. As you reflect on your own life, think about this. How much time and energy do you spend regretting things you can't control? And more importantly, how could your life change if you redirected that energy toward building a future you're proud of? Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. And regret, that's just another reaction, a choice you don't have to make. Let's take a closer look at one of the most powerful ideas in Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. This principle, central to Stoic philosophy, is refreshingly simple yet deeply transformative. It states that there are only two categories in life, things we can control and things we cannot. According to the Stoics, the key to a peaceful, focused mind is recognizing this distinction and learning to act accordingly. So, what exactly is within our control? Epictetus tells us that the only things truly under our command are our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. These are the aspects of life where we hold absolute authority. Now, contrast that with what lies beyond our control. That list is far longer: the actions of others, the outcomes of our efforts, circumstances we encounter, and most importantly for today's discussion, the past. No matter how much we replay events in our minds, no matter how much we wish we could rewrite history, the past is firmly outside the realm of our influence. And yet, so often, we pour our mental energy into trying to do exactly that. Regret arises from this fundamental misunderstanding. It stems from the mistaken belief that if we think about something enough, an old decision, a missed opportunity, a perceived failure, we can somehow shift its outcome. But the past is immovable. By clinging to it, we're essentially waging a battle we've already lost. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations shared a profound truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This idea is a cornerstone of Stoic thought. When we focus on what we can control, our thoughts and actions, we reclaim energy otherwise wasted on the unchangeable. Let's unpack this with an example. Imagine you failed an important exam years ago. That failure might sting even today, and you might find yourself replaying the situation. I should have studied harder, or if only I hadn't procrastinated. But consider this: can you travel back in time and study for that test now? Of course not. What you can control, however, is the narrative you create around that experience. Instead of fixating on regret, you might choose to see it as a turning point, a lesson in discipline. You could allocate that energy toward pursuing new qualifications or opportunities. By focusing on what's within your control, you shift from helplessness to empowerment. Practicing the dichotomy of control liberates you from the mental prison that regret builds. It allows you to stop fixating on what could have been and instead channel your energy into what can still be. Remember, your thoughts and actions shape your future, not the events of the past. If you let go of what you cannot change, you create mental space for what you can actively influence. The Stoics remind us that this practice is not about indifference or apathy, it's about clarity. By understanding the limits of our control, we avoid wasted emotions and find freedom. So, the next time you feel regret sneaking in, pause and ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, act with purpose. Marcus Aurelius once again offers timeless wisdom. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, instead of letting regret block your progress, use it as a guide, learn from it, grow from it, and focus on what lies ahead. After all, the future is where your control begins. Think about how much time we spend dwelling on the past. Maybe it's a failed relationship where you keep replaying conversations, wondering what you should have said differently. Or perhaps it's that one job interview years ago where you stumbled over a question, and now you can't help but picture how your life might have turned out if you'd nailed it. We all do it, locking ourselves in a mental loop of if only and what if. But here's the harsh truth: no matter how much energy you pour into replaying those memories, you're not changing the outcome. And for the Stoics, this kind of mental habit isn't just unproductive, it's downright irrational. Let's break it down. Dwelling on the past is essentially directing your focus and energy towards something that's frozen in time. It's like staring at a wall and hoping it will turn into a window. It simply won't happen. The Stoics believed that this fixation on what's already happened only serves to steal from the present moment, which is the only time you truly have any power. That's why Seneca famously said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." You are arranging what lies in fortune's control and abandoning what lies in yours. Now, while this quote emphasizes the future, its wisdom applies to the past just as much. By dwelling on what's gone, you're essentially abandoning today, the only time you can actually affect change. Let's make this idea more concrete with an example. Imagine someone is consumed by regret over a failed relationship. They play back every argument, wonder what they could have done differently, and fixate on whether they'll ever find something better. The more they dwell, the more they feel stuck in the past, and that mental energy could have been spent on something far more productive: healing, learning, or building new relationships. This isn't to say that reflection is bad. Reflection is important if it leads to understanding or growth. But there's a stark difference between learning from the past and living in it. The Stoics understood this distinction deeply. To them, ruminating over what cannot be changed is a form of self-inflicted suffering. It's like trying to sail a ship while chaining yourself to the dock. Marcus Aurelius taught that we should confine ourselves to the present. That doesn't mean ignoring the lessons from your mistakes. It means not letting those mistakes anchor you. It's about observing the past, learning what you can, and then redirecting your focus and energy to the only thing you control, what you choose to do right now. And here's the thing, it's not just that dwelling on the past is irrational, it's also exhausting. Think about the mental toll it takes to constantly relive old failures or missed opportunities. This kind of rumination creates a cycle of regret and frustration that saps your emotional energy, leaving you with less capacity to handle what life is throwing at you today. It's a distraction that pulls you away from the present moment where your efforts and actions are most needed. The Stoics offer us a simple but powerful solution. Treat the past like a book you've already finished reading. You can glance back at the pages for insight, but the story is written. You cannot rewrite it. Instead, shift your attention to the chapter you're in right now. When you catch yourself spiraling into regret, ask yourself, what action can I take today that aligns with the life I want to build? That's how you turn wasted energy into meaningful progress. So, the next time you find yourself stuck on a mistake or a lost opportunity, remember Seneca's wisdom. By releasing your mental grip on the past, you're not ignoring what happened. You're reclaiming your focus and using it where it matters most, right here in the present. Regret, while often seen as a source of pain, can become something entirely different when approached through the lens of Stoicism. The Stoics didn't advise us to simply ignore our past mistakes or pretend they didn't happen. Instead, they encouraged us to use these moments of regret as opportunities for reflection, growth, and personal improvement. Rather than letting regret paralyze us, Stoicism teaches us to reframe it, to see it not as a burden but as a stepping stone toward becoming better versions of ourselves. Let's start with a practical example. Imagine you regret a time when you failed to stand up for yourself. Maybe it was in a meeting where you had a brilliant idea but stayed silent out of fear of rejection or judgment. At first, this regret might feel overwhelming. It's tempting to dwell on the what-ifs. What if I had spoken up? Maybe things would have turned out differently. But instead of being consumed by that regret, Stoicism would encourage you to see it as a lesson. What does that moment teach you about your fears, your values, or your ability to handle challenges? Perhaps it reveals that you undervalue your voice or that you need to work on stepping out of your comfort zone. By reflecting on this mistake, you can identify areas for growth so that the next time a similar situation arises, you're prepared to act differently. This is the heart of the Stoic approach. Regret becomes a tool for self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The past is an outside event. It has already happened and is beyond your control. But what is within your control is how you interpret that event and how you choose to respond to it moving forward. Reflection, in this sense, is not about wallowing in guilt. It's about cultivating wisdom. Each mistake or misstep carries with it a lesson, but only if we're willing to look at it with clarity and honesty. One powerful practice that aligns with this idea is journaling, a tool the Stoics themselves relied on. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, wrote his Meditations as a form of private reflection. In his writings, we see him grappling with his own imperfections, re-evaluating his actions, and reminding himself of the principles he aspired to live by. Journaling offers us the same opportunity. By writing down your regrets and examining them, you create space to understand the root cause of your actions. Why did you make that choice? What values or fears influenced you? And most importantly, what can you do differently next time? For example, let's return to the scenario where you regret not speaking up in a meeting. In your journal, you might write about how you felt in that moment, nervous, unprepared, or worried about how others might perceive you. Then you could reflect on what led to those feelings. Was it a lack of confidence? Was it a fear of failure? Finally, you'd ask yourself, what steps can I take to strengthen this aspect of myself? Maybe it's practicing public speaking, preparing more thoroughly for meetings, or simply reminding yourself that your voice matters. The act of writing allows you to transform a vague sense of regret into actionable insights that guide your growth. This process isn't about perfection. The Stoics understood that to be human is to make mistakes. Marcus Aurelius himself acknowledged his own shortcomings, writing, "Do not be ashamed of help." You need counsel to live better even from a person who looks down on you. Accept it. In this way, the Stoics remind us that growth often comes from confronting our imperfections head-on, using past failures as a map toward improvement rather than as chains holding us back. Ultimately, this reframing of regret is not about erasing the past but about extracting its value. Every regret carries within it the seed of a lesson. It's up to us to nurture that seed, allowing it to grow into wisdom, resilience, or a renewed sense of purpose. So the next time you feel regret creeping in, pause. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Then use that insight to shape your next step forward. By doing so, you shift the narrative from one of self-blame to one of self-discovery. Instead of being trapped by the past, you're empowered to grow because of it. That is the Stoic way. How often does regret help you make a better decision? Think about it. Does replaying painful memories or fixating on missed opportunities really contribute to clearer thinking or better choices? The truth is, regret often feels productive. It tricks us into believing we're working through something or holding ourselves accountable. But in reality, regret is like a dense fog, clouding our judgment and tethering us to emotions that prevent us from moving forward. To the Stoics, regret was not just a waste of energy, but a direct result of letting emotions overpower reason. And if there's one thing Stoicism is built on, it's the belief that mastering our emotions is the key to a virtuous, flourishing life. The Stoics weren't opposed to emotions altogether. They understood that emotions are a natural part of being human, and they even acknowledged their importance in shaping our experiences. However, they believed that destructive emotions like resentment, fear, and yes, regret arise when we allow irrational thoughts or external events to dominate our minds. Regret, in particular, is fueled by guilt, disappointment, or frustration, all of which stem from attaching ourselves to outcomes we can neither control nor change. This emotional spiral clouds our ability to see the present clearly and act rationally, which is precisely why the Stoics sought to cultivate emotional balance. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, offered a profound insight into this topic when he said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of things." This means that it's not the event itself, whether it's a mistake you made or an opportunity you missed, that causes regret. It's your interpretation of that event. When you frame the past as a source of failure or unworthiness, you allow those emotions like guilt or self-blame to take control. And once emotions take the wheel, rational thought is pushed to the backseat. Instead of asking, "What can I do now?" you remain stuck asking, "Why did I let this happen?" The Stoic solution to this problem is not to suppress emotions, but to understand and manage them through reason. They taught that by stepping back and examining our emotions objectively, we can regain control over our thoughts and actions. For instance, when you feel regret creeping in, ask yourself, what am I truly upset about? Am I upset because I made a mistake, or because I'm attaching my sense of worth to that mistake? Is it the event itself or my interpretation of the event that's creating this feeling? This kind of rational inquiry helps diffuse the emotional charge of regret and reorients your focus toward constructive thought. Let's take a practical example. Say you regret not spending enough time with a loved one who has passed away. The emotion of regret might overwhelm you with thoughts like, "I was a terrible person for not prioritizing them," or "If only I could have one more chance to make it right." But instead of letting those thoughts spiral, the Stoic approach would guide you to reflect rationally. What can I learn from this regret? How can I honor their memory by improving how I value my relationships today? In this way, the destructive emotion of regret is transformed into a catalyst for personal growth and present-minded action. Cultivating rational thought doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending they don't exist. On the contrary, it requires acknowledging them fully, but without letting them dictate your life. The Stoics believed that emotions are like storms. They may seem overwhelming in the moment, but they will eventually pass if you don't feed into them. By choosing reason over impulse, you can weather these storms and emerge stronger with a clearer sense of purpose. So the next time regret threatens to consume you, remember Epictetus's wisdom. It's not the event itself that's disturbing you, but your perception of it, and your perception, your ability to choose how you respond, is always within your control. Ask yourself, how can I realign my thoughts with what's rational and helpful? How can I use this moment to grow? By cultivating rational thought and mastering your emotions, you can free yourself from the grip of regret and focus on what truly matters, living fully and intentionally in the present. Regret often stems from resistance to what has already happened and to the reality of things we cannot change. The Stoics, however, saw this resistance as futile. Instead of fighting the past or lamenting what could have been, they taught the philosophy of Amor Fati, which translates to love of fate. This idea goes beyond mere acceptance of life's events. It encourages us to embrace them fully, even the painful and challenging moments, as essential parts of the greater whole. Imagine loving not just the sunny days but the storms too, because both are vital to the richness of life. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully when he said, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." To the Stoics, this is what Amor Fati is all about: accepting everything that life throws at us, not as random chaos, but as fuel for growth and self-improvement. Even moments of regret, when viewed through this lens, become opportunities to refine our character and deepen our understanding of the world. Regret, then, is transformed from a source of pain into a tool for embracing life as it is, not as we wish it were. Let's use a metaphor to better understand this. Picture a flowing river. The current represents the flow of life, carrying everything downstream, good, bad, and everything in between. When you cling to regret, it's as if you're trying to swim against the current, exhausting yourself as you fight an impossible battle. The river won't stop, and you can't reverse its flow. But if you embrace the current, if you let it carry you, you begin to see how every twist and turn in the water, every rock, every rapid, every calm stretch shapes the journey. This is Amor Fati, allowing yourself to flow with life, trusting that everything happens as part of a greater, uncontrollable order. This perspective doesn't mean you have to enjoy every hardship or mistake. The Stoics understood that pain, disappointment, and frustration are inevitable. What Amor Fati teaches us is that these experiences, no matter how unpleasant, are necessary threads in the fabric of life. Even the moments you regret were part of the chain of events that led you to where you are now. Accepting this doesn't mean passivity or complacency. It means viewing your life as a cohesive whole where even the setbacks serve a purpose. Consider a time when something didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe it was a career decision that backfired, or a relationship that ended unexpectedly. At the time, you might have felt regret, wishing you could go back and change the outcome. But in hindsight, hasn't every experience, even the painful ones, shaped you in some way? Maybe that failed job opportunity pushed you toward a path you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. Maybe that heartbreak taught you critical lessons about your values, your boundaries, or the kind of partnerships you truly need. This is the essence of Amor Fati, seeing every event, no matter how difficult, as a piece of the larger puzzle that makes up your life. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "Whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time." The twining strands of fate wove both of them together, your own existence and the things that happen to you. This idea reminds us that life is not a series of isolated events but an interconnected web of experiences. Regret, then, becomes unnecessary because everything, even our mistakes, fits into the grander design. So, how can you practice Amor Fati in your daily life? Start by reframing how you view challenges and regrets. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Focus on what the experience has given you rather than what it has taken away. Remind yourself that the path you've walked, with all its detours and obstacles, has brought you to this moment, a moment full of potential for growth, action, and purpose. By embracing Amor Fati, you step into a mindset where regret has no place. You see life as it is, not as you wish it were, and in doing so, you free yourself to fully engage with the present and embrace the future. And like the flowing river, you learn to move with the current, understanding that every bend and every ripple is part of the journey. When you truly accept this, you don't just let go of regret. You step into a life of clarity, resilience, and peace. Regret often has a surprising root, a lack of self-discipline. Think about it. Many of the regrets we carry stem from moments when we acted impulsively or failed to act at all. Maybe it was that unhealthy meal we swore we wouldn't eat, the workout we skipped, or the opportunity we avoided because procrastination got the better of us. These seemingly small decisions can add up, creating a weight of regret that feels hard to shake. The Stoics knew this well, which is why they placed such an emphasis on self-discipline. They believed that by practicing self-control in the present, we could not only lead more intentional lives but also avoid the sting of future regret. Let's consider procrastination, one of the most relatable habits that leads to regret. Picture this: you've been putting off a major project, a presentation for work perhaps. You know it's important, but distractions keep pulling you away. Scrolling through social media feels easier. Watching one more episode of your favorite show seems harmless. Then, the night before the deadline arrives, panic sets in. You're flooded with regret, wishing you'd started earlier, wishing you'd managed your time better. The result: stress, disappointment, and an outcome that's probably far from your best effort. It's a cycle many of us know all too well, and yet it's a cycle that can be broken. The Stoics would see procrastination not as a mere bad habit, but as a sign of a lack of discipline, a failure to align our actions with our higher values and long-term goals. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, often discussed the importance of intentional living. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Time, for Seneca, was our most precious resource. He warned against squandering it on distractions or indecision, urging us to take deliberate, purposeful actions each day. This idea is at the heart of Stoic discipline, living each moment with intention rather than letting fleeting impulses control our lives. So, how do we apply Stoic discipline to overcome procrastination or other regrettable habits? One method is to start small. Self-discipline isn't about suddenly overhauling your entire life. It's about building consistency through manageable habits. Let's say you want to avoid the regret of another rushed, last-minute project. A Stoic approach might involve breaking the task into smaller, daily steps and committing to just one of those steps each day. It's not flashy, but it's effective. By focusing on what's within your control, your effort, and your choices, you gradually build the discipline to stay on track and eliminate the conditions where regret thrives. The Stoics also remind us to keep our higher purpose in mind. When you're tempted to procrastinate or act impulsively, ask yourself, is this choice aligned with the person I want to be? Will this action bring me closer to or further from my goals? By tying your actions to your values, you give yourself a powerful reason to practice discipline. Over time, this intentional living becomes second nature, and you'll find yourself making fewer choices you have to regret later. One powerful story of overcoming regret through discipline might involve someone who struggled with procrastination but found freedom through intentional action. Imagine a student who consistently crammed for exams last minute, sacrificing both sleep and confidence. After stumbling upon Stoic teachings, they began setting aside just 30 minutes each day to study, no matter how busy they felt. At first, it seemed small, almost insignificant, but over time, the results were undeniable. Not only did their academic performance improve, but so did their peace of mind. By practicing discipline in the moment, they minimized regrets about the future, proving that even a small shift in daily habits can lead to big changes. This is the essence of Stoic discipline. It's not about being perfect or rigid. It's about being intentional, choosing to act in ways that align with your higher self, even when it's uncomfortable. Regret, as painful as it can be, is often a signal that we've strayed from that alignment. By focusing on discipline in the present, we take control of our actions and, in doing so, dismantle the conditions for future regret. Seneca put it best, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. In choosing discipline today, you lay the foundation for a life with fewer regrets tomorrow. What if you used the energy spent on regret to take just one productive step forward? It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But think about how often we let regret trap us in a cycle of overthinking, replaying past mistakes, and fixating on all the what-ifs and should-haves. That energy, the mental, emotional, and even physical toll that regret takes, can feel exhausting. And yet, the Stoics believed that this very energy, when redirected toward meaningful action, holds the power to transform our lives. The Stoics were practical philosophers, grounded in the belief that what truly matters is what you ***. Regret to them was not just a futile emotion but a wasted opportunity. Instead of pouring energy into lamenting the past, they encouraged using that same energy to focus on constructive change. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic teachers, emphasized this principle when he said, "Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." This teaching urges us to stop resisting what has already occurred and to turn our attention toward what we can change, our actions in the present moment. So let's break this idea down. Imagine you've been carrying regret over letting a friendship fade. Maybe you've spent hours thinking, "I should have reached out more," or "Why didn't I try harder to keep that connection alive?" Each time you revisit this regret, you burn valuable mental energy on thoughts that, while emotionally charged, lead nowhere. The past is fixed, there's no going back to change how you acted. But what if, instead of spinning in that loop of regret, you redirected your energy toward taking action? You could send that friend a message today. You could reach out, apologize if needed, or simply start a new conversation. Taking a single step forward transforms regret into something powerful, an opportunity for improvement. This is what the Stoics called focusing on what's within your control. Regret keeps you stuck in the realm of the uncontrollable, replaying outcomes you can't change. But action moves you back into the present, where your choices actually have impact. By channeling your thoughts into meaningful change, you shift your focus from what was to what can be. And the beauty of this shift is that it's not about perfection or fixing every mistake. It's about progress, about taking small, intentional steps toward the life you want to create. To make this practice even more accessible, the Stoics encouraged breaking action into manageable, immediate steps. Epictetus would remind his students that improvement happens incrementally. "No great thing is created suddenly," he said. "There must be time. Give your best effort to everything." Let's say your regret stems from neglecting your health, maybe skipping workouts or eating poorly. Instead of drowning in self-reproach, channel that regret into just one positive action you can take today. Maybe it's going for a short walk, or preparing one healthy meal, or even drinking a glass of water. These small, deliberate actions build momentum, and over time they lead to meaningful change. Redirecting energy toward action doesn't mean dismissing your emotions or ignoring past mistakes. Instead, it's about reinterpreting those mistakes as stepping stones. Regret shows you where you feel out of alignment with your values, and that awareness is a gift if you act on it. By taking even the smallest step forward, you're no longer a passive observer of your past, but an active participant in your present and your future. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling into regret, stop and ask yourself, what is one thing I can do right now to move forward? Then act on it. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it doesn't need to fix everything, but it does need to align with the person you want to become. Remember, the Stoics didn't see action as a single grand gesture. They saw it as a series of small, purposeful choices that add up over time. And when you begin redirecting the energy of regret into the energy of action, you're not just letting go of the past, you're building a better, stronger future. Letting go of harsh self-judgments might be one of the hardest things to do, yet the Stoics believed it was essential for living a fulfilled life. They understood that nothing weighs heavier on the human mind than the relentless stories we tell ourselves about how we fell short, how we failed, hurt someone, or didn't meet our own expectations. These stories, this harsh self-judgment, can become the strongest anchor holding us back from growth. But Stoicism offers a profound antidote, the realization that we are not defined by our past mistakes. Instead, we are defined by the choices we make now, in this moment. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Mistakes, failures, and regrettable decisions, they are all events. They happened, but they are asterisk outside asterisk of our ability to change now. What is within our power is how we think about those events and, more importantly, how we choose to act moving forward. Rather than letting past judgments consume us, Stoicism teaches us to release them and focus on renewal. This isn't about ignoring accountability. Self-reflection and learning from mistakes are critical elements of growth, but there's a difference between learning and self-punishment. Harsh self-judgment keeps us locked in shame, replaying the same negative narrative without ever moving forward. Stoicism calls us to break that cycle by remembering that the person you were when you made a mistake is not the person you are today. Life is dynamic, and so are we. Every choice you make in the present is an opportunity to redefine yourself, not by erasing the past, but by growing beyond it. Let's use a practical example. Imagine you made a decision that deeply impacted a close friendship. Perhaps you said something hurtful in a moment of anger or failed to support your friend when they needed you the most. The guilt feels overwhelming, and you can't stop replaying the situation, judging yourself harshly as someone who doesn't deserve forgiveness or the trust of others. But how does this judgment actually help? Does it mend the friendship? Does it make you a better person? More often than not, it simply leaves you stuck, unable to take the steps necessary to make things right. A Stoic perspective would ask you to recognize the mistake as part of the past, fixed and unchangeable, but also to see the immense potential in the present. You might start by forgiving yourself, acknowledging that you, like everyone else, are a work in progress. Self-forgiveness isn't about excusing your behavior. It's about creating the mental clarity and strength to move forward constructively. From this place, you could reach out to your friend, apologize sincerely, and strive to rebuild the trust you lost. These actions, rooted in the present, are what define you, not the mistake itself. Marcus Aurelius speaks to this power of renewal when he writes, "Although you can't go back and make a new beginning, you have the power to begin again right now." These words remind us that self-forgiveness and letting go aren't acts of weakness. They're acts of courage and accountability. It takes strength to acknowledge a mistake, to learn from it, and to move forward with the intention to be better. What would your life look like if you released the heavy judgments you've been carrying about yourself? How much more energy would you have to focus on meaningful action, on growth, and on the relationships and opportunities in your life today? Stoicism teaches us that we're not tied to our past unless we allow ourselves to be. By letting go of harsh self-judgment, we open the door to renewal, to becoming the person we want to be, not in some distant, uncertain future, but starting in this very moment. After all, as Marcus Aurelius insisted, the only limits to change are the ones we place on ourselves. Regret, when left unresolved, has a sneaky way of influencing not just how we view our past, but how we approach the future. It can distort our decision-making, nudging us toward overly cautious, fear-driven choices rather than ones rooted in reason and clarity. The Stoics saw this as a significant danger. They understood that allowing emotional biases like regret to guide our decisions prevents us from living fully and acting with purpose in the present. Let's consider a hypothetical scenario. Imagine someone who deeply regrets a failed business venture. They invested a lot of time, money, and effort, yet things didn't pan out. Now, every time they think about starting a new project, they're haunted by the fear of repeating that failure. This regret grows into hesitation, an internal voice whispering, "What if it goes wrong again? What if I lose everything all over?" As a result, they turn down opportunities, avoiding risks, even when those risks are calculated and manageable. In their attempt to shield themselves from more regret, they've become stuck, unable to pursue anything meaningful or daring. This is where Stoic teachings prove invaluable. The Stoics would argue that decisions like these, driven by the ghost of past mistakes, are emotionally reactive rather than rational. Seneca, as always, offers sharp insight on the matter. He writes, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." What does this mean in the context of regret? It means we often cling to emotional wounds, exaggerating their significance and projecting that pain onto our future. Instead of viewing choices objectively, we let the fear of reliving past failures dictate our path. But to live in fear of what might happen is to waste the present moment, and more importantly, it's to miss out on the possibility of growth and success. The Stoics advocate for a different approach, one grounded in reason and clear-headedness. They teach us to detach from the emotional weight of past experiences and evaluate decisions based on the facts at hand, not on our lingering fears. Marcus Aurelius advised, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This reminds us that while events like failure or disappointment may happen, it is our interpretation of those events and the narratives we build around them that determine their impact on our future. Returning to the business example, the Stoic approach would encourage the individual to pause and assess their new opportunity with objective reasoning. They might ask themselves questions like, "What have I learned from my previous failure? How can I apply that knowledge to this endeavor? What are the actual risks here, and how do they compare to the potential rewards?" By focusing on the specifics of the present decision, rather than being clouded by past emotions, they regain clarity and make choices that align with their goals and values, not their fears. The beauty of this Stoic mindset is that it doesn't dismiss or suppress regret. Instead, it reframes regret as a tool for learning. Past failures are not proof of future ones, but lessons that can guide better decisions when approached rationally. Seneca also reminds us not to dwell on alternate realities, saying, "What might have been has no existence, therefore stop being occupied with it." In other words, obsessing over how things could have turned out differently or blaming yourself for not foreseeing the outcome is not only futile but counterproductive. It's better to channel that energy into what you can control, making thoughtful, intentional choices right now. Ultimately, the Stoics teach us that clarity in decision-making comes from staying grounded in the present. Regret may try to pull us backward, and fear might tempt us to avoid risk altogether. But when we act with reason instead of emotion, we find freedom. Instead of being weighed down by past mistakes, we use them as stepping stones, charting a future rooted in courage, wisdom, and purpose. By letting go of what might have been, we open ourselves to what could still be. Regret, as we've explored, can feel overwhelming, a mental weight that keeps us tethered to the past and blinds us to the opportunities of the present. But Stoicism offers us a way out. It gives us tools to face regret, understand it, and ultimately transform it into something constructive. Through the principles we've discussed today, we can learn to let go, reclaim our focus, and live more intentionally. The first key is the dichotomy of control. Epictetus reminds us that there are things in life we can control: our thoughts, actions, and decisions, and things we cannot, like the past, the behaviors of others, or the outcomes of our choices. By focusing only on what's within our control, we free ourselves from the emotional drain of regret. When you catch yourself ruminating over a mistake, ask, "Am I focusing on what I can change, or am I clinging to what's beyond my influence?" That shift alone can be liberating. Next, there's the transformative power of Amor Fati or the love of fate. This mindset encourages us to embrace everything that has happened in our lives, the good and the bad, as necessary parts of our journey. By reframing regret as simply one of many experiences that shaped who you are today, you can find peace in the past and gratitude for the lessons it taught you. As Marcus Aurelius said, accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. This perspective teaches us to approach life with openness and resilience, finding value even in life's challenges. Finally, redirecting the energy of regret toward meaningful action is one of the most practical and empowering lessons Stoicism offers. Regret doesn't have to paralyze you. Instead, it can fuel your growth when it's paired with purposeful action. Instead of replaying your mistakes on a never-ending loop, ask yourself, what can I do today to grow from this experience? Whether it's reaching out to mend a relationship, starting a habit to improve your health, or taking a small step toward a long-term goal, shifting from rumination to action is where true transformation begins. Stoicism isn't about denying emotions or pretending the past doesn't matter. It's about meeting life with courage, clarity, and purpose. Regret loses its grip when we accept what we can't change, embrace what life brings, and focus on what we can control. These teachings are not abstract, they're practical tools you can use every day to step into a life of greater freedom, strength, and presence. As we close, let's turn to a powerful reminder from Marcus Aurelius. Do not act as if you are going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. This quote urges us to focus not on the past or distant future, but on the here and now. Life is short. The time we waste on regret is time we can never get back. So, how can you start applying these Stoic principles today? What's one step you can take right now to align your actions with the life you want to create? Let us know in the comments how you plan to approach regret differently. Your insights could inspire someone else on their journey. And if this message resonates with you, consider subscribing for more Stoic insights and actionable wisdom. Until next time, remember, the past does not define you. It's what you do in this moment that truly matters.